Hello, this is Robert Polenick, the owner of brutalirongym. I'm here for a video today to kind of discuss the top nutritional concerns when you're trying to cut weight in terms of like fat loss. So not really weight cut like a wrestler, but trying to lose body fat and trying to gain muscle or gain size. So you can see the topic that we have there that I just kind of butchered was top nutritional concerns for fat loss and muscle gain. So it's really important to kind of think of as fat loss as something different than weight loss. So a lot of times when people go into what they typically think of as weight loss diets, in their mind they're thinking they want to lose fat and build a lot of muscle. But when you go for pure weight loss, oftentimes they'll just be looking at a scale, and what they'll find is that number will go down, 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 but that doesn't mean that they're losing only fat. They could be losing muscle as well. So what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to go through kind of the top concerns, is we're going to be talking about the concept of fat loss, where we're trying to lose body fat but keep as much muscle as we can. And maybe the number on the scale will go down, it probably will, but we're actually more so, our goal is a composition change. So we want to look leaner, not actually be lighter on a scale. So there is a difference between that. So most people think weight loss in a scale, we want to think fat loss and looking better, not based on a scale. So, and the same thing for muscle gain. So when we try to gain muscle or gain muscle size, we want to do it with the least amount of fat gain as well. So there's really no point in having a lot of muscle if you can't see it, okay, or if the shape is kind of not what you would like. So that's the idea for muscle gain. When we're talking about that, is we're not really looking for weight gain. We're looking to gain muscle tissue with the least amount of body fat. And will the scale go up? Probably. So, but that's not our main concern either on muscle gain diets or bulking diets. The main concern is to look better. So, about myself, so you kind of know a little bit about me. I do have a teaching certification in health and phys ed. I have a master's in nutrition, and I'm a certified trainer through American College of Sports Medicine. So that's kind of the educational part. So I've been doing personal training for 16 years now. And in terms of my own personal results, so for fat loss, I've done 3 diets where I've lost 50 pounds in 10 weeks or less. So that was pretty extreme. And I had 1 diet where I did 70-pound weight loss over 10 months. So I've definitely done, my fair share of fat loss style diets. And then in terms of like gaining size, at 18 years old, I graduated high school at 165 pounds and kind of like pudgy soft, kind of 165. And right now I'm around 290. So I've gained 125 pounds to my frame without adding too much to the belly. So so that's kind of a little history of myself. So that way when you hear me talk about this stuff, I do have the educational background as well as the personal experience and the training experience. So if we look, the number one concern for both fat loss and muscle gain, the number one concern is calories. And believe it or not, the number one concern about calories is actually eating too little. So, and that goes with fat loss and muscle gains. So in terms of fat loss, where most people get in trouble is they'll know they need to eat less to lose body fat. So however, they usually tend to eat too little, like too low calories. And what happens is their metabolism kind of like down regulates, like it'll slow down how fast their body kind of processes things, will slow down to meet this really low calorie level. And as the body slows down, it becomes harder and harder and harder for the body to then burn off body fat. So the goal of a fat loss diet is you want to eat below your maintenance level of calories, but only a small amount that'll promote good fat loss, but not anything too low where it'll shut down your body and start to get your metabolism to down-regulate. So the general concept I use when I have people or clients do fat loss is we want to eat a lot of food, but it has to be super clean food, and then we want to be more activity. So if they eat more and do more, they'll actually get leaner. Whereas most people tend to eat less and they do more, but they tend to do more through cardio. So they'll just go out and run on a treadmill or go run outside and it's cardio, cardio, cardio. And the downside of that is cardio is an activity that does not promote muscle tissue. And definitely doesn't grow muscle tissue, and it doesn't do much for holding on to muscle tissue. So instead, when I say do more, we usually have our clients do more weighted type of exercise. So they'll do like weighted circuits as their cardio instead of going on a treadmill. So the last couple clients I've had get ready for competitions, in males, they don't do any cardio on any elliptical, like elliptical or step mill, kind of no cardio in that sense. For my females, they do have to do it. Mother Nature kind of blessed us all with different amounts of estrogen and testosterone, so women have to work a little bit harder to get leaner. So, so we do cardio, but it's short burst interval type stuff, so they're definitely not going to be on a piece of cardio for probably longer than even 20 minutes. So back when I was younger, one of the biggest things would have been like fasted diet cardio. She'd wake up in the morning, go on the step mill, and walk for an hour on the step mill. That stuff was horrible. So, but we all did it. So, so now that we're getting a little bit smarter with how this stuff works, we realize that that wasn't the best approach. So there was a lot of effort being put in. So it's not that people aren't working hard; they are working hard. They're just working hard at the wrong stuff. So our main concern, like we said, for fat loss is eating enough calories. How many calories is enough? I'm going to go ahead and give you some numbers in this video, but it's really important to realize that it's a general number, and then you will have to tweak and change that based on yourself. So the number I'm about to give you will not work 100% for every single person watching the video, and it definitely won't work long term. So whatever I eat now, if I then drop 20 pounds of fat, I can't keep with the same calorie level. I've got to adjust that. So as I get a new body, I have to do new efforts. So what we have for the number, I'm not sure if you guys can read this at all, but it's body weight times 11 to 13. So if I weigh, make the math easy for me. So if I weigh 200 pounds, I would then eat 2,200 calories. So up to 2,600 calories. So, and that's going to give a decent range for people to start in. So one of the topics I'll talk down here in black was they do have kind of apps and website programs now that you can kind of track your calories. So at Brutal Iron Gym, we do promote like a couple styles of dieting. So, and dieting in the sense of just eating really clean doesn't really necessarily mean fat loss. But one is the way where you do count numbers. So you do count your calories, you do count your protein, all these things. Another style is where we just tell them, here's really clean foods, eat these serving sizes, and you'll probably be good. So if somebody's not really big into numbers, we have that other style of diet where they just have to measure their food, and then that's all taken care of for there. So at the end, I'll give you the email for the gym. It's just brutalirongym@gmail. So if I go through these numbers and you think you're more of the style where you don't want to have to track all this stuff, shoot us an email and I'll send you that other diet style we have. So again, for fat loss, to make sure you're kind of around the right ballpark, is take your body weight times 11 to 13. So you might find 11 is if somebody's not super duper active, 13 is if they're pretty active. So what that means is if you're not very active and you start with 13, that might be too high and you're not going to get much results. So whereas if you're super active and you start at 11, you might be too low and it's going to kind of like drop in energy. You won't feel as well starting. So it's your body weight times 11 if you have a kind of a sedentary lifestyle. Your body weight times 13 if you're more active. So this is going to give you a number to start with, and our goal is that we have here like the rate of fat loss that's kind of healthy is a sustained rate of 1 to 2 pounds per week. So when you initially start a fat loss, you will have like a water weight change. So you might dump some water weight, and maybe in the first week you lose 4 pounds. But then you'll notice the next week it might only be 1 pound, and then the next week maybe 0, the following week another pound. So over time, like over the span of 4 to 8 weeks, it should average out to a rate of about 1 to 2 pounds per week. So now if you're trying to, like this is if you're trying to change your weight. Like let's say you're kind of at a weight you like, but you just don't like the way it looks. So then you're going to kind of not worry about the scale part, and that's where we have the next section here. So is the things we kind of monitor when we're doing fat loss. So what we want to kind of watch is we do want to watch the scale. So if your goal is fat loss, your weight shouldn't be going up. So it's one of those things where you might have an initial jump if you're doing weight training for the first time ever, plus trying to do a diet, you might gain a little bit of weight in terms of just kind of stored carbohydrates, stored water. You might have an initial kind of muscle mass gain, but you're not going to be gaining like 2 pounds of muscle in the first week or anything like that. So it's like a slower rate. So most of the weight gain when somebody starts lifting is more so from kind of like stored carbohydrates, stored water in the muscles themselves. So your body realizes you're using your muscles more, so now it's going to start storing fuel in those muscles. So what we want to watch is we watch the scale. We want to watch and see how our clothes fit. So the clothes around our midsection, like the tightness of our shirt, tightness of our waistline and our pants, that stuff should slowly start feeling looser and looser as we keep going. So we have pictures. No one ever likes to take a picture until like their after photo, but we need a before photo. So it does help to kind of, again, if you have more methods in which you're tracking, it allows you to see the bigger picture. So if you're only tracking the scale, you're only going to see what the scale measures, which is purely weight. It doesn't measure body composition. So whereas if we throw in doing pictures, how our clothes fit, maybe even taking measurements, that'll help give you a bigger picture of what's going on. So maybe the scale hasn't moved, but in your picture you can see you're visually leaner. And that's our main goal anyhow, so that knows we're on track. Whereas if the scale hadn't moved, maybe you thought it wasn't working. So if that was the only way you had of tracking things, you're going to most likely make knee-jerk reactions and kind of make changes whenever you don't need to be doing that yet. So by having more methods, it allows you to have a better control of what's going on. So again, if you want a paper more in depth about measurements, for example, like where do we take the measurements, what's the frequency, all those kind of details, you can email us at brutalirongym@gmail.com and I'll send you that handout. So I'm going to try to keep moving just for the speed of the video now. So one of the metabolic concerns we have is if somebody, this has actually happened a couple times, or else the people who have done some shows, we'll give you a couple examples. So one is like if somebody's just done a string of 3 or 4 shows in a row and they didn't quite get as lean as they wanted, their body, like they probably were doing over cardio, too low of calories, their body just kind of stopped at a certain point and stayed soft. Sometimes they'll then come to us and they'll say, hey, I want to lose the rest of that weight. And unfortunately by then their metabolism has crashed already and really low. So usually we have to do a period of time where we are kind of nice to the body. So we give it back a little bit of calories, but through clean food. We drop the cardio, make them do more of that activity through weight training, and we allow their metabolism to kind of catch back up. So we allow their body to kind of recover from the beatdown of that constant diet. And then usually once it recovers, then it'll be more receptive to a second kind of effort of fat loss, and they'll get their better results at that second round. So another example would be if somebody, if they've never done any nutrition, they've never done any diet, weight training before, and they just start weight training, like I mentioned, they might get an initial jump in body weight due to that muscle adaptation. So, but it doesn't mean their diet's not working. So I have had people where, like I had one lady, for example, she dropped 2 pant sizes, but was 7 pounds heavier due to the amount of just kind of intramuscular fuel that she'd been holding on to due to all the new weight training. And so she had a great composition change, but if we were looking at just the scale, she would have fired me, you know, having gained 7 pounds on a fat loss program. But like I said, the clothes had gotten better, the image was definitely better in her pictures, and her measurements were all in the favor we wanted. So again, kind of it helps to kind of track things with multiple measurements. So in terms of muscle gain, so if we kind of switch our ideas now from fat loss to, say, somebody wants to just build muscle, and they want to build as much as they can but with the least amount of body fat gains. So their concern is still going to be calories, and it's still going to be the concern of eating enough. So most times you'll hear guys, it's most often guys that want to do the bulking, but females, you know, more power to you if you want muscle. We all get to choose our pathway. So, but if you're trying to build muscle, so that's going to be the concern, is eating enough. So you'll hear people say like, well, I eat all the time, or, you know, I eat 5 meals a day. Well, if you're not getting bigger, it's not working. So it's kind of one of those things where regardless of what you think you're doing, if you're not getting the result you want, then what you're doing isn't enough. So if a person goes from eating 2 meals a day to 3, and they're not growing, just because you had that 3rd meal, yay for you, but if you're not getting results, it's not enough. So that will be the idea, is pushing your calories up and get that body to really start growing and changing. So the calorie amount we have to start with is your body weight times 13 to 15. 15 is definitely like a higher end. So if you're a really hard gainer, which means you're very lean, you can kind of eat whatever you want. You almost never get fat. So that would be the people who do body weight times 15. If you're trying to build muscle and you're relatively lean, like you're not in horrible shape, you're just trying to build some muscle, not get worse, body weight times 13 is a good amount. So, and again, you're looking for a rate of addition or weight, gaining weight of 1 to 2 pounds per week. So if you're gaining it faster than 2 pounds per week, you're probably gaining body fat that you definitely don't need. So if you're not even gaining a pound a week, say you went for 4 weeks of a diet and you only gained 1 pound, you're not eating enough food. So you want to make sure that on average in the span of 4 to 8 weeks, that you're gaining about 1 to 2 pounds per week. So the next thing we have is the same thing about the measurements. So we don't want to measure only on the scale. So we do want to keep that in mind, because if we get bigger, we would have to kind of weigh more. So like more muscle has more weight. So if we're getting bigger, we do want to have more weight, but we want to make sure it's going to the right places. So we take measurements, we look at pictures, we see how our clothes are fitting. So if I'm gaining at a rate of 2 pounds per week, but I notice my pants are starting to get snug around my waist, I might want to reduce my calories a little bit and aim more towards that 1 pound per week. And you might find that that's a better rate of gain for you, where you don't get as much body fat. So in terms of metabolic control, like the metabolism concerns, it's really going to be just, very often people will say, I'm eating as much as I can, but they won't be gaining weight. Then you've got to find a way to eat more. So I did a diet once, a challenge for myself. I was trying to push my weight up, and I was consuming 5,000 calories a day. So, and I had rules where I had certain meals where I had to get all this stuff in throughout the day. And I was in grad school at the time. So I had one rule where I was drinking a protein shake that was also mixed with oats, which I hate that meal, but it got my calories. So I had a rule before one specific class that I had to drink the shake before I could go in the class. So one day I was struggling to get the food in. I drank the shake and I was really struggling to get it in. Ended up throwing up outside of the class. So so I was probably a weird, creepy dude at the day. But I ended up throwing up, and I was more annoyed that I had to then make up those calories. But I have eaten and pushed myself in diets to where you do have to push your limits. So our body is very comfortable where it's at. So if you want something new, you're going to put in new efforts, and the body will sometimes fight that. So you just got to kind of do what you know you're supposed to do and find a way to get there. So the next kind of concern we have, the next kind of nutrient thing we want to look at is protein content. So for fat loss, it's really important to make sure you eat enough protein. We have the reasons kind of written out here. So how much we know is enough protein is 0.8 grams to 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if I weigh 150 pounds, I want to eat, whatever that would be, 80 plus that, 120 to 150 grams of protein. So that would be a good number to start from. So if you're under that, just try to work up to that. So, but that would be kind of a good range to be at. So then kind of the benefits of it is, it helps if you're eating enough protein that you're not going to lose as much muscle tissue as you're trying to reduce your body fat. So if we keep protein in there, which helps to build and repair muscles, we're going to have a higher likelihood of holding onto our muscle tissue amount as we're losing body fat. So the other benefit we have is the more protein you eat throughout the day, it decreases your likelihood of overeating carbs and fats. So carbs and fats and proteins are pretty much the three main macronutrients, or the three big things that make up our food. So fats and carbs are what our body uses for fuel. So fats is kind of like a slow fuel, carbs is a little bit of a faster fuel, and protein, it's not really used as fuel in most cases. So there are kind of extremes where it might be burned off for fuel, but it's most often used for other things like growing and repairing muscle tissue. It grows your hair, your nails. It kind of regulates pH in your blood, regulates body temperature. Does a whole bunch of good stuff in our body. So our body tends to use that for repairing and doing things within the body, whereas it'll use fats and carbs as energy. So you can kind of think of like fats and carbs as like gas in the gas tank of a car. So that's kind of the gas of the body. It'll use that to kind of do the activities for the day. So, and then the other thing is having enough protein in your diet as you're losing body fat helps kind of maintain a balanced level of water retention. So this is a little bit of a weird topic, but if somebody's really low in protein and they're moderately low in calories, they'll tend to be very soft, and they'll have like kind of bigger fluctuations from day to day of how much water retention they have. Whereas if they kind of normalize their protein and get it to within this range, they'll tend to have more of a consistent level of body water. So, and it's going to give them kind of a more consistent feel with how their body looks. So they won't have one day where they wake up and they look like crap, and then the next day they're like, oh man, I actually look pretty good. So they'll just kind of be consistent. So that's the main benefits of eating protein and fat loss, is it reduces the likelihood of overeating carbs and fats. It gives you what you need to maintain and hold on to the muscle tissue you have. And then, like I said, it kind of balances out water retention. So for muscle building, which should make intuitive sense that we need protein to build muscle. So protein is kind of like the bricks of a house. So you need bricks to build a house, we need protein to build muscle. So that's kind of how it works. So how much protein we need, you'll hear like everything I've said in this video and everything I'm going to continue to say, it's all up for debate, and you'll find resources that'll say one thing versus another thing. So this is just everything I've learned in my education, everything I've learned with clients. So like I said, I've been doing this 16 years, so this is 16 years of observational studies, so plus the education. So like I said, I'm going to give you some stuff, try it. If it works, which I'm pretty sure it will, you'll be happy then. So, but how much protein we need is 1 to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. So if I weigh 200 pounds, I'm going to eat 200 to 300 grams of protein. So you'll hear studies say, like, is that going to damage your kidneys? No. So they've done studies where, you know, people have ingested 300 to 400 to 500 grams of protein a day. And on this top end, yeah, it's definitely not going to be the healthiest thing for your body. So, but what we're trying to find is an amount of protein that your body needs to do its daily normal activities for maintenance work, but then it also has a little bit extra to build that new muscle tissue we want. So that's all we're looking for. So we're not looking to pour in so much protein that's, you know, busting out the seams. It's going to cause us a lot of problems. We're just trying to put in enough to get the results we want. So if you're afraid of a lot of protein, just start at 1 gram per pound of body weight. See how results you get. If you feel good, stay there. If you're getting results, stay there. If you're kind of having slowed results, not recovering well between your workouts, then go ahead and start pushing it up towards that 1.5 grams. So do you really need more than that? I haven't seen any benefit in it. So I've actually done diets where I've had 2 to 3 grams per pound of body weight. So I had one diet, for example, 60 to 70%, it would have been somewhere in that range daily. 60 to 70% of my calories were coming from protein, and I was only eating 30 to 40% of carbs and fats. I did it in extreme that way to see how it worked. It was very interesting. It actually wasn't, it didn't work as well as when I had a lower amount of protein, lower percentage. So if I was eating 400 grams of protein a day, my body just definitely wasn't able to utilize all that. So the range of 1 to 1.5 grams has been consistently working for years and years and years. So a lot of people have done that. Bodybuilders have done that. You know, you get into like athletes and all that. So it works. So like I said, if you have a concern about the health, just start at the low end and work your way up as you feel you need to. So the benefits, like we said, is it builds a new muscle. So you have to have excess protein around to build new muscle. Just like I have to have extra bricks to build a new house. So it reduces, again, the likelihood of overeating carbs and fats. So that's actually important as well in muscle gain, because very often people will get their calories through, say, pizza and ice cream, which is low in protein. Not necessarily pizza, but what it has more so than a protein content is just excess carbs and fats. So just too much, and their body can't use it all, so it stores it as body fat. So they might be getting heavier on a scale, they might be getting bigger, but they're not getting a visual better difference, because they're gaining just as much fat as they are muscle, so they're not actually looking any better in their composition. So that's one of the benefits of eating a good amount of protein in your diet, is you won't be overeating the carbs and fats and gaining too much fat along with the muscle you're wanting to gain. So the other benefit is improved recovery. So if I'm trying to work out really hard to build muscle, I need to have enough protein in me to fix the muscle I'm beating up, and then also to build a new muscle. So that's one of the benefits of having a high amount of protein, is it'll give you your body that ability to fix the muscle that you're already damaging in your workouts. Okay, so let me switch sides here. The third and last kind of category we have talks about meal structure and frequency. So again, there's a whole bunch of research and science that you can find to argue with everything I'm about to say, and a bunch of research and science that'll kind of support everything I'm going to say. So again, my approach to this video is when you talk about nutrition, people tend to get kind of worked up about this. where if it's not what they believe, they kind of get aggressive towards it and attack it. What I'd say is keep an open mind when you're watching this video. I know we're already halfway through it, but keep an open mind. And if you are struggling to get results, try this stuff out and see if it works for you. So if you have your own way and you're getting results that way, that's fine. So this is just some ideas for people who are looking for new information. So for fat loss, our goal is to eat about every 3 to 4 hours, or as often as like your schedule would permit. So you do not need to eat like every hour, so we don't need like 12 meals a day. But the rate of every 3 to 4 hours is pretty good. So the reason why we kind of have that is it matches our body's kind of use of fuel. So if I eat one meal in the morning, and then I'm super duper really active and busy for 12 or 14 hours, and I haven't eaten anything in that time, that one meal, there's no way in the world that probably lasted the whole time. Or you would have had to eat so much food at that one meal that it would have been uncomfortable, or there would be other negatives to it. So the idea of eating every 3 to 4 hours is kind of like as our body needs some fuel for activity, we give it enough to get that activity done. Then as it gets close to empty, we give it just a little bit more. But our goal is to kind of have a calorie amount that's kind of like waves versus big spikes and valleys. So one of the concepts is if I eat a whole bunch of calories at once, my body doesn't have use of that right now, or like in the time that it takes to digest it, it'll get rid of some of that excess, it'll keep some of that excess. And then all of a sudden, in another time of the day, if it doesn't have enough fuel, it realizes it's kind of under-fueled. So then the next time you put anything in it, it'll save it for the next time that it might be underfueled. So it's kind of like, think of it ourselves, if I starve for a day, and then all of a sudden I have access to an all-you-can-eat buffet, I'm going to overeat. So that's the same thing with the body, is if we just give it a nice steady fuel amount throughout the day, it'll have a better likelihood of not storing excess, either at the time that we're eating excess, or it won't store excess at the time after a period of being too low. So, so that's our structure, is eating about every 3 to 4 hours. If your schedule only allows you to eat every 5 or 6 hours, then that's fine. So just eat as often as your structure can allow you, up to that rate of 3 to 4 hours. So again, the benefit is it lessens overeating. So if I know I only have to eat enough right now to last me 3 hours, I'll just have a nice small amount. I'm not going to feel like I have to shove it all in because it's going to be a certain amount of time or so long till my next meal. Then we have usually eating more often allows a person to feel like they're eating more throughout the day. So if they're eating about every 3 hours, they feel like, oh, I'm hungry right now, but man, I just ate a little bit ago and I'm going to be eating just a little bit from now. Whereas if a person only has 2 or 3 meals a day, they're going to feel like, oh my gosh, it's been so long, so the next meal. Still have like kind of more of a psychological negative when they eat infrequently or like a low number of meals a day. So usually more often, if a person eats more often, they'll tend to feel fuller and they'll be less worried about any kind of hunger pains or any hunger moments. So the other thing we have is kind of eating more carbs at moments of high activity and focusing more on fats at moments of low activity. So you'll see again a whole bunch of research that kind of argues this stuff, but it just kind of makes sense again. Is the fuel of carbohydrates, our body tends to break that down faster. So if I eat a carbohydrate now, I can get kind of energy from it now, and it'll last a little bit. So if I'm super active and I want the energy now, it makes sense to eat a carbohydrate. If I have a moment of low activity, it makes sense to eat fats. So we would eat, like say before bed, I would want to eat some fats in my meal, so that way the amount of energy that it provides the body is low and slow sustaining. So my body will kind of have a little bit of energy to do what it needs to do as I sleep, versus a huge spike before I go to bed, and then it either burns it off or it doesn't and stores it. So then all of a sudden later in the night it's left with nothing. So again, there's arguments all the time about this stuff, but it does make sense if you eat carbs at moments of high activity and more so fats at moments of low activity. So, and if you're not sure what foods are carbs, what foods are fats, what foods are proteins, again, send us an email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. I have a handout that kind of lists foods into their categories, so you don't have to guess. So the thing for muscle gain is about the same rate. So we want to again eat it about every 3 to 4 hours. So, and again, this kind of makes sense with how the body works. So our body is constantly repairing and building and doing stuff with muscle tissue throughout the day. So at almost all moments, some muscle tissue is being broken down, some muscle tissue is being built back up. So it's kind of a continual process throughout the day. So it makes sense that I would want to give it that extra amount of protein as I'm trying to build muscle, sustained in small increments throughout the day. So if I give it a whole bunch at one time, but then at a later moment in the day when it would have needed protein but it doesn't have any, so then it has to kind of tap into resources, and it won't be building the best it can be. So it does make sense, and there's also research about this, about how often there needs to be like excess proteins or amino acids in your gut. So, but it just in general, just think eating every 3 to 4 hours helps our body have enough fuel to grow and build. So the other thing is it lessens again the likelihood of overeating. So again, our goal of muscle gain is to gain the least amount of fat. So if I only eat 2 or 3 meals, but I know I need to build muscle, and I know I need a lot of calories, people tend to overeat and they eat the wrong things. So eating small amounts allows you to eat healthier foods to get your calorie count, and it allows you to not feel like you need to stuff your face every time you're eating. So the other kind of side benefit, and this has been a big concern with me since I was younger, is it reduces belly bloat, and it kind of makes digestion easier. So I found whenever I was 18 and I was 165 pounds, I would wear about size 32 waist pants. So now that I'm 290, I wear a size like 36 in the waist. I actually need more because of my butt and thighs, but that's a different problem. So my waist is actually still, it's definitely bigger than when I was 165, but it's still very much quote-unquote in check. So, and I think part of that has been keeping the size of my meals rather small and spread out, so that way I don't have one big meal, my belly's stuck out, I'm dealing with like indigestion and the digestion issues. So it tends to be just not as bogging down, it doesn't weigh you down as much as 1 or 2 huge meals if you tend to eat more frequently throughout the day. So, and then we have, like I said, down here it says matching muscle building process. Again, it kind of makes sense. Our body's constantly trying to build new muscle and repair muscle all throughout the day. So I want to be giving it protein all throughout the day. So the last thing we have there is when you're trying to gain muscle tissue, it makes sense to eat carbohydrates around your workouts. So they're faster, easier fuels for your body to use for great workouts. And then at the other times of the day, I want to be focusing mostly on fats. And again, that kind of helps to reduce fat gain as you're trying to build muscle. So, and it just kind of matches our activity. So if I have carbohydrates more around when I'm going to be more active, it makes sense that I'm going to be taking a faster digesting fuel source. So I tried to do this video as quick as I could, but still cover all the bases. So if you have any questions or if you'd like to get any more information about this stuff, send us an email at brutalirongym, all one word, all small letters, brutalirongym @gmail.com. Okay, hopefully this was helpful. Thank you.